Lebanon is entering the Washington talks looking for one thing above all, an immediate halt to Israeli operation on its soil. Israel, by contrast, sees any diplomatic track as worthwhile only if it leads to Hezbollah's disarmament and new security guarantees on its northern border. Yet we have to accept the reality. As long as Tehran insists on funding, arming and directing its most powerful regional proxy in Lebanon, neither a durable ceasefire nor genuine disarmament is realistically on the table. Well, the result is a process that indeed is historic. Direct negotiations between two enemy states since 1993, but one that is structurally tilted towards disappointment rather than a big breakthrough. So today we will discuss exactly why talks between Israel and Lebanon in all likelihood will reap no positive results. Well, from the outset, Israeli and Lebanese officials have been describing the Washington meeting in starkly different terms. Israeli leaders talk about a long-term vision in which a clearly demarcated border, the dismantling of Hezbollah's military machine, and most importantly, normal cross-border movement are all part of the new reality. Lebanese officials, however, have carefully narrowed their public objective to stopping Israeli strike, with President Joseph Aoun and other ministers pressing first for a ceasefire, even a limited 15-day pause before contemplating anything more ambitious and serious with the Israeli state. This clash of priorities is not a minor procedural gap, but it goes to the heart of what peace means to each side. For Beirut, a cessation of hostilities would be a way to relieve enormous domestic pressure, reclaim some political space from Hezbollah, and show the Lebanese public that engagement with Israel can bring tangible respite from bombardment. On the flip side, for Israel, a ceasefire that leaves Hezbollah's arsenal intact and its forces still stretched in southern Lebanon would be seen as little more than a tactical timeout for an adversary that has been firing into the galleys for many weeks. Now, looking at the current situation, Lebanon's message is that the road to peace runs through a ceasefire, while Israel insists that road must run through disarmament. Now, neither side willing or able to embrace the other's starting point, the negotiations risk becoming an exercise in parallel monologues rather than a pathway to a shared outcome. Now, all three parties involved, including Israel, Lebanon and the United States, have insisted that the Israel-Lebanon issue is completely separate from the US-Iran negotiations. In fact, Lebanese Foreign Minister Youssef Raghi has publicly underlined that the Lebanese files is independent, while American officials talk about broader security and de-escalation without invoking Tehran. On paper, the Washington talks focus on hostilities along the shared Israel-Lebanon border and, most importantly, the future role of Hezbollah. In practice, they are inseparable from Iran's regional strategy. It is also important to remember that Hezbollah is not just another militia in Lebanon's patchwork political system. It is a central pillar of Iran's deterrence posture against Israel and the entire West. In fact, one expert has put it very accurately and stated that you cannot find a workable solution in Lebanon without trying to find a workable solution in Iran. Now, direct US talks with Tehran and Pakistan have already stalled, and Iran continues to refuse any serious discussion on its support for armed proxies like Hezbollah and Hamas. Now, that structural reality means Lebanon's negotiation team is trapped between what it may privately recognize and what it can publicly deliver. Now, Lebanese officials know Hezbollah has dragged their country into a confrontation with Israel primarily to protect Iran's regime and its regional posture. Yet Beirut has neither the political will nor the actual power to move against this very group. Unless Iranian regime is either toppled, severely weakened, or fundamentally changes its view on proxies, none of which is currently on the horizon, Hezbollah's core capabilities will remain off limits at the negotiation tables. In Lebanese politics, simply sitting down with Israel is highly contentious and widely seen as concession to Jerusalem. Aoun's government is therefore trying to sell the talks domestically by tying them to an immediate easing of the conflict, arguing that negotiations are justified only if they produce a ceasefire and some protection for civilians under bombardment. Now, this creates a vicious circle in which talks are both politically costly and unlikely to deliver the relief that would justify them. For Israel, the calculus is almost the mirror image. Jerusalem views Hezbollah as the primary military threat on its northern front and has little faith that Lebanese state can or will confront it. With that in mind, Israeli officials are signaling that operations in southern Lebanon will continue because they do not believe Beirut will ever risk an internal showdown to enforce any paper pledge to disarm this very group. Well, at the end, the talks launched in Washington by Marco Rubio are indeed historic in form but hollow in substance. They mark a rare movement of direct high-level engagement between two enemy states with US sponsorship, but their foundation lies on a mutually exclusive definition of success and under the shadow of a third actor, which is Iran, that has every incentive to keep its Lebanese proxy armed and active. And as long as those fundamentals remain unchanged, the Israel-Lebanon negotiations are less a prelude to peace than a managed stalemate. And a likely outcome is not a breakthrough, but yet another missed opportunity etched into the region's long record of failed diplomacy.